Hey, true believers, do you love politics? Do you love comic books? Well, Superhero Politics is for you. It combines the comical nature of politics and the political nature of comic books. Join us, like, share, and experience the world of comics and politics in a way that you never have before. This is Superhero Politics, and I'm your host, Michael Holmes. Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of Superhero Politics. I'm your host, Michael Holmes, and we have got a lot to talk about. We have finally certified the election, and we have had an attack on our democracy. Welcome to 2021, everybody. So let's jump right into it. So if you have just returned from the outer reaches of space on a mission, then you probably have missed some things that have been happening here on Earth 1. January 6th, the Electoral College met and certified the election finally for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris over the objection of the Republican Party. We had something like 140 Republicans in the House object to the Electoral College certification of the states, and then we had several senators who made, ridiculous stands from the Republican Party against it. People like Josh Hawley from Missouri, and then we had, of course, Ted Cruz, who can, there's never a disaster that happens that Ted Cruz is not a part of. There's no government shutdown. There's no debt ceiling debacle. There's nothing that happens negatively in the Senate, and Ted Cruz is not there. So, of course, the usual suspects, took advantage of this moment to grandstand for 2021. But, we're not going to talk about them today. We're going to talk about the man behind the curtain. We're going to talk about the puppet master, and what you were just listening to on the intro was Master of Puppets from Metallica, and this is the setting of our episode today, and we're going to be talking about who is really pulling the strings in the conservative movement and why Donald Trump is the biggest patsy in the history of politics. So today, for the second time in his presidency and the first time in U.S. history, we had a president who was impeached twice in his administration. And, why this happened, a few days ago after the certification, Donald Trump, came out and addressed a throng of his supporters, and these yahoos essentially walked down to the Capitol building, forced themselves in. 5 people died. They trashed the Capitol in what is probably the most dangerous domestic terror event that we've had in our country in over 100 years. And so, because of his role in that, Donald Trump has essentially lost all of the support, corporate support, congressional support, donor support. Everybody seems to be abandoning him, and Democrats and Republicans alike said, this is the last straw. This is an impeachable event. Now, Democrats have obviously been done with Donald Trump from the beginning of his presidency. They called this. They said, look, this is gonna happen. He's gonna do these things. Even from the 2016 election, and some people are comparing this reaction from Republicans to 2016 and said, well, Democrats themselves objected to the election. They did object because there was verified interference from the Russian government in our election. Now, it wasn't interference in the sense of any vote changes or anything of that nature. It was disinformation campaigns. It was, things against Hillary Clinton, like she was a baby killer and she, practiced child sacrifice and she drinks blood of children and she's running a child pornography ring out of a basement of a pizza parlor in DC that actually didn't have a basement. And it was so effective that there were people who actually, and I hate to say this from my home state of North Carolina, there are people who actually jumped in their cars and drove to D.C. with AR-15s to go make a run to free the babies. They were going to free the babies from the clutches of Hillary Clinton. So when we talk about superhero politics, we talk about heroes and villains, and there has been a clear campaign over the last 40 years to paint Hillary Clinton as a villain. But today we're going to talk about how the obvious villain is not always the villain, not always the big bad. And so I wanted to kind of jump into this episode of Justice League Unlimited. Now, normally I talk about, from comic text, but today I want to go, and if you guys haven't watched it, you can go on the DC Universe, or you can go on, I think HBO Max now, or you can search some of these episodes on YouTube, and you can find Justice League Unlimited. I think Netflix, Hulu, and some of the other streaming services have these as well. And so Justice League Unlimited was the follow-up to DC animated Justice League. And so what happened was the Justice League needed to expand. And so they essentially built the Watchtower up above space, and then they recruited teams of heroes that were operating on their own. And so one of the heroes there was the Question. Now, the Question is a kind of a detective, kind of idiot, savant, genius type, but he deals in conspiracy theories. And he sees conspiracies everywhere. And, the fact that his name is The Question, and we're now dealing in an environment where QAnon is now, the leading conspiracy theory purveyor in our society, that's not lost on me. But The Question was investigating the fact that supervillain billionaire Lex Luthor was running for president. And the reason why he was investigating this is because he found some footage of the Justice Lords. Now, the Justice Lords were an alternate universe version of the Justice League. And so what happened was, in their dimension, Superman finally gets pushed over the edge and he kills President Luthor. And what that leads to is the Justice League becoming an authoritarian regime who takes over the world for their own good. And so the Justice League, they knew about this. They actually fought the Justice Lords, and they knew about this, and so they hid that footage. Well, the question comes about this. Like, he finds this. And so he wants to prevent this from happening on Earth. And so he decides in some deranged way that he is going to prevent Superman, who is, the beacon of hope, the symbol, the big blue Boy Scout. He's going to prevent Superman from making the same mistake as his other dimensional counterpart. So he says, well, you know what? I'm going to go do something. I'm going to go beat Superman to the punch. I'm going to go and I'm going to murder Lex Luthor. I'm going to kill him. And so if I kill him, that means Superman can't do it. Therefore, the events that set in motion the Justice Lords becoming the regime of that universe, they can't happen. But to his surprise, he gets there and Luthor beats the absolute crap out of him. Throws him around, knocks him over, jacks him up in the air one-handed, obviously displaying super strength in a way that normal Lex Luthor would not be able to show. Well, when the Justice League arrives to end this conflict, to save the day, it's revealed that none of this was orchestrated by Lex Luthor. It was actually Brainiac who had taken over Lex Luthor's body and was pulling the strings the whole time. And why is this important? Because it is easy to look at Donald Trump and see the big bad villain, but he is not who we need to focus on. He is not the puppet master. He is not who has been pulling the strings this entire administration, bringing it to this end. It has been one Mitchell McConnell. Now, if you don't know who Mitch McConnell is senior senator from Kentucky. He has been in Congress now for about 30 some odd years. He's been Senate Majority Leader since 2014. And he is essentially, as he calls himself, the Grim Reaper of legislation. Now, the reason why I said earlier in the intro that Donald Trump is the biggest patsy in the history of American politics is because if you look at what his agenda was, it wasn't really an agenda. One of the funniest parts of that episode of Justice League Unlimited was when Lex Luthor said, I spent $75 million on a fake presidential campaign just to piss Superman off. And if anyone remembers the lead up to Donald Trump thinking about running for president, it was the 2011 White House Correspondents' Dinner where after years of ignoring him, Barack Obama straight ethered Donald Trump and his speech. I mean, he just left nothing. He didn't even leave ashes. And, people talked about that for years. And so Donald Trump waits, 2012 goes by, Donald Trump waits, and then he runs for president. He announced he's going to run for president in 2015. And everybody thought, oh, this is a joke. There's no way. But the entirety of his decision and his drive to run for president was to get revenge on Barack Obama. Not directly, but by proxy. He was going to come to office. He was going to destroy everything that Barack Obama did. He was going to, destroy his legacy, undermine everything, take credit for what he did. He was going to erase Barack Obama from history. But he needed allies. And unfortunately for him, he got Mitch McConnell. Now, Mitch McConnell looks at Donald Trump and he sees a useful idiot. Now, I know this is honestly, and I really want this episode to go to my Trump supporters. I really want you guys to listen to me, and I don't want you to reflexively reject what I'm about to say, what I'm saying here. I don't want you guys to just outright dismiss this because it seems to be critical of Donald Trump, and it's really not. Donald Trump is a flawed human being. He is prone to egotism, on a level, and that criticism is valid. You have to know it is. Like, you have to accept that by now. But Donald Trump got caught by one of the most masterful, skillful manipulators and politicians that this world has ever seen. Say what you want to about Mitch McConnell. You can call him a turtle. You can say what you want to, but Mitch McConnell is a political genius. Mitch McConnell is essentially the Batman who laughs. He is such a great tactician that he was able to stymie Barack Obama, who is on the left one of the smartest people, if not the smartest person to ever sit in that seat. He was able to stymie the agenda of Barack Obama for years, and even use that to set the stage to get Republicans back to power after the absolute debacle of the Bush years. Now, I've been around politics for 30 years, for most of my life. And if you would have said to me that by 2014 or 2016, that just 8 years after George W. Bush crashed the global economy, ignored Katrina, mismanaged 2 wars, doubled the deficit, that Republicans would control not only all 3 houses, not all 3 branches of government, the White House, Senate, and the House, but they would also get 3 Supreme Court justices. If you would have told me that, I said, you are nuts. I would say you are completely nuts. But Mitch McConnell actually made that happen. So when Donald Trump comes along, Mitch McConnell says, wow, like, here's the opportunity. Like, here's a chance for me to solidify my legacy and solidify my agenda even after I'm gone. Now, if you know any villain, if there's any great villain that you've ever had a chance to read in comic books, the one thing that they're always concerned about is the control in implementing their agenda and how long that they can maintain power. I mean, look at Dr. Doom. He runs an entire country. You look at some of the other legacy type villains, and they're always concerned about how they're going to maintain control forever. They want to rule. Mitch McConnell is the same way. Mitch McConnell looks at the country and says, how do I solidify the country that I love? Now, I'm not talking about the country that is or the country that should be. Mitch McConnell's version of what he believes America should be. How does he solidify that? He knows that electoral power is fleeting. It's transitory. It's transitional. You can have it one day, you can lose it the next. As a matter of fact, he's no longer Senate Majority Leader because Democrats were able to flip 2 seats in previously red Georgia to gain majority in the Senate. Now it's a slim majority, and the vice president-elect is now going to have to serve in the tiebreaker. She was a senator, and essentially she's going to have to spend most of her time in the Senate breaking ties. So that limits her agenda there because the majority is so narrow for Democrats. So you look at how Mitch McConnell will be able to, with 1 or 2 defections from Democrats or whatever it is, essentially slow down the agenda of the Biden administration, much like he did the Obama Biden administration. Now, back to my Trump supporters, back to my Trumpers. You love this guy. He was, for better or worse, he was the guy that you believed was your white knight. He was your hero. He was the guy who was going to swoop in and protect you from the liberal hordes who were going to transform America and take it out of your hands. But he was never that guy. You guys looked at him and through eyes that you couldn't see. You couldn't see the reality of it. One of the powers of Donald Trump is he's somehow able to warp reality around him to make people believe that he has abilities that he does not have. And so Mitch McConnell was able to take advantage of that. He was able to use Donald Trump to pass an agenda that he could have never, ever passed on his own. See, here's the thing about Mitch McConnell. There's in comic books, there's a condition called hypersanity. The Joker has it. Deadpool has it. Like a lot of crazy characters in the comic books, they have it. And what happens is they're able to break the fourth wall. They're able to realize that they're comic book characters and that they exist in a universe that's fictional. And so it's kind of a hypersanity. And so the one thing about Mitch McConnell is that for all the things that he's not, he knows exactly what he is. And he's able to somehow convince people to do his bidding, even though they hate him. There's nobody in the Senate that loves Mitch McConnell. Nobody, not a single senator that loves Mitch McConnell. Nobody. But he's able to keep them together because he understands what each one of them wants. So if you had to compare him to, a comic book character, you would kind of compare him to, someone who grants, the enchantress, someone who makes people see their greatest desires and entraps them. So he's able to, control these people simply because he knows what each of them wants. And he used that same ability on Donald Trump. He knew Donald Trump wanted to destroy the legacy of Barack Obama. He knew Donald Trump's, he knew his catnip was hatred of Barack Obama. So while he hyped up Donald Trump in public as this great strategic leader and as, someone who was turning the country around, what he was doing was essentially pushing Donald Trump into installing through judicial means a way for Mitch McConnell to continue to control how America functioned, even if he's gone. Mitch McConnell was 80 years old. He just got reelected for another 6-year term. What are the odds that he finishes that term? It's 50-50. But three very conservative Supreme Court justices, 220 plus federal judges at all levels, lifetime appointments, all of them relatively young. They're able to arbitrate and rule on the Constitution in a very conservative way. Now, what does this mean for my Trump supporters? And to be honest with y'all, I go back and forth between you guys with extreme anger and pity, because you guys don't yet know what's happened to you. You guys don't yet know that you've been manipulated just like Donald Trump. You guys are so mad at liberals. You guys are so mad at Democrats. You guys are so mad at Biden and Pelosi and Harris and Stacey Abrams and Barack Obama. You guys are so pissed off at all of these people that you don't realize who the enemy really was. You don't realize that Donald Trump's Lex Luthor was being controlled by Mitch McConnell's Brainiac. Like you haven't caught on yet. Like you guys really are still in the dark. You're out here attacking the United States Capitol on behalf of someone who has already been discarded by Mitch McConnell. Now ask yourself this. At the end of the Trump administration, what do you really have? Trump supporters, what do you have? Let's take a look at what he promised you. Let's take a look. He promised you that he was going to deport 11 million illegal immigrants. Why you would want that, I have no idea. Because those people, most of them have been here their whole lives. Most of them are your neighbors. Most of them are actually working in jobs that you would never do. And I don't want to stereotype there, but that's factual. He said he was going to build a wall on the southern border. And Mexico was going to pay for it. I'm going to build a wall. And guess what? Mexico's going to pay for it. It's going to pay for the whole thing. It's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. And he didn't build anything. So he's actually celebrating the wall that he did build. Now I'm going to take that back. The wall that he did build is replacement wall that was already there. So they took money from the Pentagon, out of soldiers' pockets. They took money out of the federal budget to pay to rebuild wall that was already there that they said Mexico was going to pay for it. So you didn't get any immigration. Nobody got kicked out. You got this ghoulish reputation for separating kids at the border. 500 and some odd kids don't know where their parents are, have been separated, probably will never see them again. Now they become the responsibility of the United States because you can't send them back to a land that they don't know with parents they don't have. And so there's that. You got a tax cut, and this is the key component here, and we're going to get into that a little bit about why this is important for Mitch McConnell pulling the strings. You got a tax cut. Now, it was a little bitty tax cut, but it was a tax cut. You got about $40 per paycheck, or $80 a month, or $100, whatever it may be. But it was small as compared to what, say, Elon Musk got, and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. It was small. Now, here's where you guys should be pissed off. It's because the tax cuts that corporations got and the tax cuts that the richest people in this country got, they're permanent. Guess whose tax cuts end? Yours. They sunset in 2021. Now that was written into the bill, but you guys didn't read it. So you didn't get the wall. You didn't get the deportation of 11 million undocumented immigrants. Your tax cut is essentially running out now because we're in 2021. The economy is crap because of mismanagement of COVID and everything else. And essentially, you have nothing to show for 4 years of being labeled racist and anti-Semitic and now essentially traitors. You have nothing to show for this administration. But you know who has everything that he wants? Mitch McConnell. And I talked about the tax cuts there a little bit before, because if you look at who the Republican Party's true constituency is, it is not you. Trump supporters, it ain't you. It is the corporate interests of this country. Donald Trump ran on draining the swamp. And let's just be honest, that was never going to happen. But Mitch McConnell used that to rope Donald Trump in to doing one thing. He got his tax cuts. He got his deregulation of all the industries that benefit the wealthy, and he got his judges. Now, if you go back 40 years, and I'm going to ask you guys to remember, and for you guys who are younger, who are listening to this podcast, well, first of all, thank you, and I appreciate your support. Go back and research on when this country's stance on conservatism really changed. So around 1980, Ronald Reagan got elected, and he decided that he was going to implement supply-side economics. And so what that means is you cut taxes, you deregulate industry, and then you take your hands off of it and say, hey, capitalism, do your thing. And so what happened is America went from the creditor of the world to the largest debtor in this world, primarily because of tax cuts. Now, why is that important to Mitch McConnell and the Republican Party? Why? Because if there's someone behind the puppet master, if there's a puppet master's puppet master, it's corporate interest. And yeah, they give money to both sides, but it's asymmetric. So if anybody's pulling Mitch McConnell's strings to force him to pull Donald Trump's strings, is big business. So when they infected the Reagan administration, the whole impetus of the conservative movement changed. It changed from being small government. If you look at the platform from the Republican Party, 50 years ago, you'd be hard pressed to tell it from the Democratic platform today. But that all changed. So now it became about getting taxes cut and getting regulations cut on big business. And so Mitch McConnell's goal is to cement that agenda into our judicial system. Now, the reason why Trump is the biggest patsy in political history is because he unwittingly almost upset the apple cart. He almost gave away the plan. Now, there's always this moment of exposition in comic books where the villain has the hero trapped. He has him upside down. The Joker has Batman swinging by chains over a tank full of sharks. Like, where the hell do you get sharks? Like, where do you just get sharks from, bro? Like, how do you just come up with that stuff? And so, like, they've got Batman swinging above a tank full of sharks. And at this point, the Joker goes into his soliloquy about his plan. He explains the whole thing to Batman, and he gives Batman time to escape. So Donald Trump almost gave away the plan. Even though he wasn't really aware of the plan, he almost gave it away. What did he do? Donald Trump decided, in order for me to win this election, I got to be a populist. Now, I talked about this in the last episode of the Two Santa Claus Theory. Donald Trump decided that he's got to be a populist and that he's got to lean into giving big. Now, Mitch McConnell relented and he gave out some stimulus in the first half, and he gave out some stimulus in the second half. Now, even in that, he was able to still direct, the lion's share of the stimulus to his masters, to big business. Small businesses are shutting down at a rate that we haven't seen since 1932. Black businesses are inordinately hit. 40 to 45% of black businesses will never open again. 90% of those loans didn't go to people of color. So Mitch McConnell was able to keep not only his corporate agenda, but his white supremacist agenda intact through the first round. And Donald Trump comes along and says, oh, okay, well, let's give out $2,000. And Mitch McConnell was like, damn. Why? Because he knows that Donald Trump's hold over his base is almost as strong as his hold over Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump was able to convince his base, people who say they hate socialism, to actually turn around on a dime and say they support socialism and give Donald Trump power for it, that he may lose control. So what happens? Donald Trump loses the election. And so what happens is Mitch McConnell behind the scenes rallies all of Republicans to start to whisper that no, you didn't win. You didn't lose. It was stolen from you. Hey, Mr. President, you're not going to let them steal this election, are you? And then Trump hears, oh my God, like, I'm not going to lose. I can't lose. They're not going to take this election. And so he goes out and he tells his supporters, don't let them steal this election from us. And so it just continues to build and build and build. Mitch McConnell, while saying the right things in public, is secretly whispering to the likes of Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and all those, we've got to stand with the president. He goes over to the House and he talks to Kevin McCarthy and he says, we've got to stand with the president. All the while, he's playing Geppetto in the background, manipulating all of the players. So what happens is he riles Trump up. Trump tips over his supporters and he sends them, and then they go into the Capitol and destroy the Capitol. So now, knowing that there's no way to keep Trump in office and continue to use him as a useful idiot, Mitch McConnell is looking down the road. Well, this guy still holds a lot of sway over his supporters. I can't expose myself as the puppet master. So therefore, I got to burn this guy. It's like, I got to burn him. So what he does is when this happens, he gets all of Republicans to essentially say, you know what? That's the straw. That's it. That's what broke the camel's back. We got to get rid of this guy. Now, how deftly he was able to both get Democrats to impeach him again, which essentially would, if convicted, would bar him from electoral politics again at the federal level. So he could never run for president. Now, not to say he couldn't be out there campaigning or doing all this. He could still be a significant thorn in the side of the Republican Party, but he can't run for president again. And so what that allows the Republican Party to do is rebrand themselves, dive into the Lazarus pit and come back fresh and new and clean and newly born again fiscal conservatives, loving austerity, to cripple the Biden administration. This allows them to do that. Now, he's gotten a lot of help from private industry because now, the president's biggest megaphone, social media, is gone. He's been banned from Facebook. He's been banned from Twitter. The alternative Twitter, I like short bus Twitter, Parler, has been shut down. So there's no outlet for him to be able to amplify his voice and message. Probably more than likely, Fox News will disavow knowledge of him. They won't have him on. One American Network, they probably will. But that remains to be seen. That's a smaller market. Newsmax, maybe, but that's a smaller market. They can't reach as much as Fox News. So the president has essentially been nullified and cast aside. But Mitch McConnell essentially remains unscathed because when it comes to the Senate, he knows that there may be enough votes there to remove him, to remove Trump. There may be enough votes there, but it will look like Democrats led the charge. So then he will have plausible deniability. Mitch McConnell will have plausible deniability that it was not him that took the Messiah away from the Trump supporters. Now, I hope you guys are listening to me. It was not him, Mitch McConnell. It was those darn Democrats. You were right to hate them all along. See? Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. This is what Mitch Puppet Master McConnell has done to you, conservatives and Trump supporters. It was never about conservative values. You think Mitch McConnell gives a rat's butt about gay marriage? Do you think you think he cries one tear about legalization of marijuana? Do you think he cares anything about abortion? He does not. Mitch McConnell is a corporate animal. He is a capitalist animal. He cares about capitalism. He's conservative in the same sense that Galactus is evil. Galactus eats planets because he has to. Mitch McConnell is a conservative because he has to be. And so I feel not sorry for you guys, because honestly, Trump supporters, you guys earned this. Like we told you. We saw this coming. Now, I didn't expect to get impeached twice, but we saw it coming. And we told you. But your anger is misdirected. You're hating us, and you're fighting against us, and you're fighting against the rest of the country and essentially the rest of the world. When you're in it, when you're getting shot in the back, your enemy is behind you. So I want you guys to really be aware and cognizant of what has happened to you. Mitch McConnell is the villain. The big reveal has happened. It's not Lex Luthor per se. He's a bad guy. But the puppet master that is pulling the strings is Mitch McConnell. And now your champion is gone and Mitch McConnell remains. And now, as Democrats come to power, trying to deliver to you relief from the mess that was made by Trump and McConnell, he is counting on you to fight back against relief. Because you love $2,000 when Donald Trump was going to give it to you, but will you love $2,000 when Joe Biden is the one that is bringing it? Because you would call Mitch McConnell and say, we need $2,000 because President Trump said give it to us. But will you call Mitch McConnell and say we need $2,000 stimulus if Joe Biden is president? Mitch McConnell is betting no. He is betting that he has indoctrinated and brainwashed and manipulated you to such a degree that you will be so aggrieved that Donald Trump is gone that you will turn on the ones who are coming to help you. He's making that calculation. He's making that bet. Brainiac, the Batman who laughs, the Joker. All of these things right now represent who Mitch McConnell is. He's chaos. He's disorder. And you guys have not even realized what he's done. So I'm going to leave you with these thoughts. I'm going to leave you to ponder. And I'm hoping that you guys will realize enough to cut the strings. Cut the strings that Mitch McConnell has been pulling on the Republican Party for the better part of 40 years. Free yourself, conservatives. Free yourselves, Trump supporters. Know who your real enemy is. It is not us. So that's it for this week's episode. I really want to thank you guys for the support. We're gaining some downloads. We're getting some regular listeners. But I really would ask you guys to share this. I think this is a unique podcast in the sense of it of how it's put together. And I'm really proud of the content here. But we're on iTunes, Pandora. We're on Stitcher. We're on pretty much anywhere that you can find a podcast. And if you guys are out there and you're listening and you have, a topic from either comic book world or from the political world, and you want to say, hey, Mike, hey, I got this idea. Can you link these two together? So if you have, a issue in the comics that you think has political undertones and you want me to link it together, then you can email me at superheropolitics@gmail.com. That's superheropolitics@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, all Superhero Politics. So just search that, you'll find me. And, true believers, just remember that, there's no time where it's not appropriate to speak truth to power. I would be remiss if I didn't say, my heart goes out to those affected by COVID, to those who are still struggling economically. Love someone, be a hero to someone, and you have the power to change someone's life. All right. Until next time, Superhero Politics. What's going on, true believers? Thank you for your continued and growing support. If you're enjoying the content that we're producing here on Superhero Politics, I ask that you subscribe anywhere that you can find podcasts. That means iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. You can find us at Buzzsprout, and also on our social media at Superhero Politics on Twitter, at Superhero Politics on Facebook, Superhero Politics on Instagram, and Superhero Politics on TikTok. Like, share, join us, and if you would have any topics that you would like to share or just questions that you would like to ask me, you can send your emails to superheropolitics@gmail.com, and we'll do an episode where we answer your questions. Thank you for your continued support, and remember, always speak truth to power.